my name is Jerry Wheeler, and I'm going to be reading from my short story, Love, Sex, and Death on the Daily Commute, which is available in Law of Desire, Tales of Gay Male Lust and Obsession, which is edited by Ian Phillips and Greg Wharton. And the story is about a guy who sees another guy on the freeway on his daily commute every morning, becomes obsessed with him, and falls in love with him. And at this point in the story, the main character is coming out to one of his friends, one of his co-workers. I'm not out at work. I'm not out to my family or friends, even though I've known since junior high school that I'm gay. It's not like I'm overly concerned with what they'll think. I just don't believe it's necessary. I'm not tortured about it. I don't agonize over it. I'm not ashamed of it, but I don't go around with rainbow flags on my clothes or march in the pride parades. I guess I should, but that don't get involved rule applies. I'm not much of a joiner, and it doesn't look like the movement needs my help with the agenda anyway. I work for a large multinational corporation, a mid-level manager of a mid-sized department somewhere in the middle of the building. The breaks and lunches I don't spend working in my corner office with a view of the parking lot I take with a fellow mid-level manager named Gina. She's a bitter stump of a woman, short and round, with aged brown skin, rough as bark, and eyes deeper and blacker than the most twisted knotholes. She's always reminded me of the talking apple trees in The Wizard of Oz, only with a little more attitude. And you can't really say we were good friends either. Given a choice, she really wasn't the kind of person I'd hang around with normally. As I said before, I'm pretty much of a loner. It was one of those friendships born out of workplace necessity more than an actual need for companionship. A lunch partner to keep you from looking like a total loser who brings Robert Heinlein or Danielle Steele books to read while shoveling in that Tupperware-encased microwavable tuna casserole. I did not cherish her, nor did she me. Looks like Tammy's going to get that marketing job, she said one day as she sat down opposite me in our usual booth in the back of the cafeteria overlooking the blue and white sign with our corporate logo on it. She wore another one of those big flower print blouses that, for all I know, had kept her from getting anywhere in the company. This one was pink hibiscuses on a field of scarlet. Like you didn't know that already, I replied, peeling a banana. Almost one whole side was black, and I was trying to decide whether or not to eat around the bad parts. She waved a hand covered with rings, their blue and white stones as gigantically fake as anything worthy of the after midnight slot on the Home Shopping Network. Oh, sure, she said. She's been sniffing around the VP like a bitch in heat, but I thought they'd at least give me an interview. I mean, I have a marketing degree. You know that. Everyone in the whole damn building knew about her degree, especially me. I heard about it every fucking day for 3 years, from the bastard professors who weren't perceptive enough to grace every one of her papers and projects with A's, to the utter futility of finding a job commensurate with her newly acquired skills. She even sent me a graduation invitation. I think I used it to scrape bird shit off my windshield, but I'm not sure. Maybe they're not done interviewing yet, I said. Oh, they're done all right. The posting came down last week. Anything opening up in your department? She grinned, showing uneven coffee-stained teeth. It'd be fun being your boss. I'll bet we'd work great together. The thought made me nauseous enough to throw away the whole banana. I don't know, Gina. I doubt there's anything coming up, I said, but they keep me pretty well out of the loop. I'm probably not the best person to ask. I sipped my coffee and listened to my next sentence as if I were standing outside my own body. There's something I have to tell you, I said to her, barely realizing what my brain wanted my mouth to say. What? She replied, all job-related inquiries fleeing her eyes. The only thing she liked more than complaining was gossiping. I knew what was coming, but I couldn't hold it back. I was unable to dam the confessional tide. I'm gay, I said, my voice shaking. I'm not sure what reaction I expected, or even if I had thought that far ahead. Her eyes, however, registered complete surprise, especially disconcerting from someone who took great pride in knowing everything about everybody. Her spoon dropped back into her vanilla yogurt with a wet plop, splattering her upper lip with yellowish goo. She didn't even bother to lick it off. Oh, my God, she said. It's not that big a deal, I replied. People are coming out every day. Does it bother you? She frowned, her bushy eyebrows a big black hedge above her eyes. I don't know, she said. I guess not. Have I ever said anything offensive to you? Gina, Gina, Gina. It's all about Gina. Not that I can remember, I said. She picked up her spoon and began to eat again. Good. I'd hate to think I've been pissing you off all these years and not even knowing it. Rolling a spoonful of yogurt around in her mouth, she seemed to be looking at me as if she'd never really seen me before. I was new to her now, and deserved a different, closer scrutiny. I felt myself reddening under it. "So what changed you?" she asked. "Nothing. I've been this way ever since I was 13. Maybe I'm asking the wrong question. Why did you decide to tell me just now?" That confessional tide began to surge again, only this time the substance was more speculative fiction than actual fact. Its metamorphosis, however, didn't make it any easier to stop. "I've got a boyfriend." Her spoon paused on its way to her mouth, yogurt dripping back into the cup, which tipped dangerously towards her lap. She affected more nonchalance this time. "My," she said, "you're full of surprises today, aren't you? What's his name?" She looked over her glasses at me as the spoon completed its journey. "Joe," I trailed off, not wanting to say Joe Bob, for fear it would sound too country hick. I didn't have any recollection of ever censoring my own fantasies before, but my brain was charting new territory here. I could hardly wait to hear what I was going to say next. "Where'd you meet him?" she asked. My mind, now apparently operating under its own will, ran through a short list of possible meeting places I didn't even know it had compiled. "The library," I replied, immediately disliking its choice. "Library?" she repeated, confused disbelief obvious in her eyes. "Since when did you start hanging around the library?" "Since I found out there were a lot of cute guys there." I was hating this conversation almost as much as I was regretting it. "Forget it," I said. "Forget I ever mentioned it." At least I was serious about that part. "No, I'm glad you told me." She concentrated on scraping the sides of her yogurt cup, making sure she got every last bit. That was Gina. Never let anything go to waste. "I'm just a little surprised, that's all. I mean, one minute we're talking about Tammy and the marketing job, and the next minute you're telling me you're gay. Haven't you ever heard of segways?" "I guess it was a little sudden," I replied, "but I just wanted you to know because..." "Because why?" "Not because I cared for her in any way, but because I was using her as a sounding board. After all, I'd never made it official by saying it out loud before, but I couldn't tell her that. "You're important to me," I finished. I could tell from the warm glow which came into our eyes that the lie had been received as enthusiastically as I feared it would have. "Great," I said. "I now have a relationship I didn't want with a woman I don't really like. How can I get out of this conversation without deepening my predicament?" "Thanks," she said, reddening as she reached across the table and took my hand. Hers felt warm and moist, and she looked as uncomfortable as I felt. "I think you're pretty important, too." Something in her shaking voice told me that I might be the only person she'd ever said that to, and I felt smug for a half-second, until I realized I had just fictionalized a boyfriend out of thin air and a few sightings on the freeway. Given that, it was hard to tell which of us was more desperate and lonely, but I was sure I had the edge. "Can I ask you a question?" she said. Christ, no, I thought. No telling what the hell I'll say. "Sure." "Well," she said, "when you guys, do it, who gets to be the man, and who decides who gets to be the man and who gets to be the woman?" I knew this question, as moronic as it was, would be genius compared to the ones I'd be getting once my predilections became known around the building. "We flip a coin," I replied. "Come on, break's over with. Let's get back to work."